Hey everyone. So I just wanted to put together a quick video to show you an experiment that I've been essentially toying around with in my free time related to AI and AI workflows. Again, this is just purely an experiment. This is nothing that is currently being used or in production or even fully fleshed out at all, right? So do what you will with this information. Just wanted to share what I've been experimenting with and essentially what I'm learning as a result of that experimentation. So I know that AI agents are the hottest topic right now in the Workday world, but I think I'm really intrigued by the practicality and the reliability of AI workflows. So in this video, I'll walk through a super quick workflow that I've been experimenting with. I'll share my biggest takeaways from this experiment so far. And just keep in mind, all of this information is just a moving target as the technology evolves, but it's still useful to know kind of where my mind is at this point in the year in April 2025. What are the main differences between an AI workflow and an AI agent? Everyone seems to have a little bit of a different definition of these terms, but the way that I understand it is that AI workflows have more of a predictable and deterministic course of action that have been developed by someone else, either a developer or someone who has designed that workflow in a step-by-step way. Whereas an AI agent really determines its own course of action, right? You essentially give it a task and tools, and it essentially maps out what steps it needs to take, what tools it taps into, right? So again, everyone has a little bit of a different definition here, but that's the way that I see it, all right? So we'll definitely be talking a lot about AI workflows here. And the reason that I'm intrigued by AI workflows in April of 2025 is that they are currently much more predictable, reliable, auditable, and generally cheaper per run. In the world of HRIS, all of these things are great things. Don't get me wrong, I think the AI agents will eventually catch up and get to a place where we can trust and rely on their outputs. I'm just not sure that we're quite there yet. But listen, all of that is bound to change and probably pretty quickly. So for this example, I want to show a really basic AI workflow, which is an essentially a Workday password reset workflow. So for obvious security reasons, I am using fake worker data here, but still, it is just as cool, I promise. Okay, so before we jump into the demo, let me walk you through just a super quick diagram of the workflow that we'll be showing today. So for example, we're prompting an LLM and then taking the response from that initial LLM, formatting it a little bit in order to then prompt it right back into the next LLM call, and so on and so forth. So first, we're taking the initial message and having AI check to see what type of request this is. And if it's a password reset request, then we continue on to the next step. If not, we're bailing out and presenting the user with an error message. Otherwise, we will look to see if we can find the worker in our tenant, and we'll be using AI to do that. If we find the worker, we'll continue on with essentially gathering additional information about the worker in order to then make that password reset call if possible. If it's successful, we'll generate a confirmation message here. Otherwise, again, we'll generate an error message to the user and exit out of the workflow. Let's go ahead and jump into the demo because I think this is going to be the most exciting part of this. This whole workflow is tied into a chatbot interface. I figured that this is probably going to be the coolest way to interact with it and probably the easiest way to interact with it as well. So here it is. So let's go ahead and just walk through a really basic example of this workflow. I'm going to say, hi there. All right, and it's prompting me to see if I want to have my Workday password reset. So I will say that would be very helpful. All righty. And so the LLM, based off of my programming on the back end, it's now starting to collect the requirements here. So in this case, it's required to collect the first name and last name. So again, we're using fake worker data here. So I will say, sure thing. My first name is Patrick and my last name is Star. Okay, so it looks like it did find this employee in the Workday tenant. So it'll say, thank you, Patrick Star. Here's the username that we found for you. And this step is what we call a human in the loop step. So at this point, the workflow has all of the information needed to actually make the password reset request, but it's checking in with the user. It's checking in with the human before it does that thing. Again, just to give a little bit of a better experience to the human rather than, surprise it with, hey, we found you and we reset your password, right? We're just checking in one last time just to make sure that the user is going down the workflow as intended. So I will say that would be perfect. Alrighty, and the password was reset. So you can see here, it provided a message. Your Workday password has now been reset. It will show the email address that will arrive to, and then it will also show the Workday username for the employee, as well as a link that they can use to log in. So again, pretty standard process here, but there is just so much happening on the back end that I am just thrilled about. Again, a lot of potential here. So let's reset, because those of you who have ever worked in Workday support know that there are multiple branches to how this process can play out, right? One of those branches being, what if this user is locked out, right? So let's follow that flow to see what happens. So I have a message that I'll just punch in here. Okay, and now it's asking for first name, last name. So I'll give it information for a user who is for sure locked out, which is this employee called Eugene Krabs. And we'll see that the workflow can handle that as well. So it's saying, thank you so much for that information. Unfortunately, your Workday account has been locked out due to too many password reset attempts. Please wait about 15 minutes before trying the reset password process again. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. All right. So that is the beautiful thing about this workflow, is that it can follow all of those different branches based off of how you set it up. All right. One more branch that we'll explore is what if the employee just simply does not exist in the tenant? So let's initiate that conversation. And we'll say my first name is Christian, and my last name is Del Cid. All right, so for the sake of this example, I don't exist to this LLM. All right, and we see that message. So I wasn't able to locate your Workday accounts. So in the workflow, I have it so that it is asking for the employee ID number or Workday username, just in case that information would better help this workflow find the employee, right? But in this case, the employee just doesn't exist, all right? So if you've worked with any type of LLM or AI in general, you know that there's a lot of different things that the LLM is capable of and that it's eager to do, which is great. But in a use case like this, where it is very, very defined what it is that we want the LLM or AI to do, and all of the different branches are even defined as well, it's probably even more important what this workflow does not do compared to what it actually does as well. So let me show you a super quick example because these LLMs are really eager to help. And it's just amazing in what ways they will just kind of branch off, do their own thing, and try to help you. So let me go ahead and punch in a query here. All right, so I'm asking it if it can teach me how to Dougie. And look at the response here. So it seems like you might be looking for a dance tutorial on how to Dougie. Unfortunately, I specialize in helping users reset their password. Would you like me to assist with that instead? Right? Perfect. Perfect. This is exactly what I needed to do, right? Don't go off and do anything else. Stick to the script, right? You are just solely here to help users reset their password. So this is perfect. So let me give you a little bit of a behind the scenes look as to how these things are working with the responses that are being entered in by the user. So there's a lot of text here, all right? So I want you to focus in to this variable here that I've defined. So you'll see that I have a variable called isPasswordResetRequest. And you'll see the Boolean of false. You'll see a confidence score of 0.0, requirements met is false, and a description of the user is asking for instructions on how to Dougie. So all of this is amazing and magical, and I really want you all to understand kind of the capabilities that we're currently at this point in the year. So essentially, the most basic way that I can explain this is we are giving the AI, the LLM, the user information, as well as a ton of other information, and we're forcing it to have what's called a structured output. So we're saying, almost think of it like a form that the LLM has to fill out every single time it responds back, right? And so it's saying that based off of these criteria in natural language, is this a password reset request? False. It's filling out that form, that field, and saying false. What's the confidence score that it is a password reset request? 0. Perfect. Are the requirements met, right? Do we have a first name and last name? False. And then what's a brief description, again, in natural language as to what it is that the user is requesting? The user is requesting instructions for how to Dougie. This is mind-blowing, right? For using a tool that is just really prone to kind of branching off and helping in areas that you don't necessarily ask or even hallucinating, to be able to get a structured output out of this system is mind-blowing. It is amazing. It is amazing. What does all of this mean? What are the implications of this? What are some of the principles that I'm holding on to during this moment, especially in this ever-evolving, ever-changing environment? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So some of my key takeaways from this experiment are to know your process. So if you remember this diagram, this is a simple password reset request process, right? If anyone has worked in Workday support in any way, shape, or form, you know this process like the back of your hand. And I think that knowing that process in any sort of way that is almost second nature to you can be a problem when engineering these workflows, right? Because a process that is second nature to you is not second nature to an AI who knows absolutely nothing about your workflow. Something as simple as taking the pieces of data that come in through an email or a ticket and trying to figure out exactly what to do from there. So I'll give you an example. Once a ticket lands for a password reset request, one of the things that can be second nature is that, oh yeah, well, let me go to the employee in Workday, right? But what information are you taking from the email that you're using to look up the employee in Workday? Things like first name, last name, email address, maybe company, maybe employee ID number if that's available, right? Those are the things that are really natural to us, especially if you're in this workflow on a day-to-day basis. Those are the things that you have to kind of break down in order to translate to an AI, especially in a workflow like this. All right, so Again, going back to the original key, know your process and make sure you know it in a way that you can almost kind of teach and coach somebody who's brand new to Workday. So number two is know your tools. So this is really important as well because the LLM, the AI that's helping you in this workflow does not naturally have access to the internet or to any specific pieces of data that it may need in order to do this job well. All right. So remember this diagram. I was tapping into Workday to try to find the employee, but then also collect additional information about the employee. So that's a tool, right? That's a tool that I needed to make available to the LLM in order to follow this workflow successfully. Those are the types of things that you should be thinking about when designing these workflows and when interacting with an LLM. These are going to be key in order to make sure that these workflows can work well and that we're setting up the LLM to be as successful as possible here. Number three, something that is really, really fascinating is that these AI models are almost interchangeable. All right. So going back to the diagram here, all of these green boxes are LLM calls. So let's say specifically I'm using an OpenAI 4.0 mini model. And let's say that's doing well, that's getting the job done. And then let's say OpenAI or maybe Anthropic or some other surprise company, DeepSeek, just drops a brand new model, right? And this thing is just amazing. It's almost very little work to interchange these models once the workflow is built, right? So I can almost take out whatever model I was using and then input a brand new model, right? Or better yet, maybe I am calling different models for different steps in this workflow. I can do that as well, right? So if a model is really, really good at finding information and this other model is really, really good at maybe translating information from one language to another, I can interchange these models throughout this workflow as well and really, really refine it in that way. And here's the kicker. As these models start to become more available and as they start to get better as well, if the workflow is built out, it takes very little to almost no work to interchange these models as well, right? So even just with the progression of these LLM or AI models, your workflow might get better overnight almost with a brand new LLM dropping or a brand new model becoming available, things of that sort, right? Fascinating time to be alive. I think one of the biggest key takeaways is just the current AI capabilities as of April 2025 when this is being recorded. We are there. We're there at the point of AI and LLMs being able to help in our day-to-day workflows, right? There's still a ton of questions that need to be answered before we can fully put it out into the wild. And again, this is just strictly an experiment here on my end that I want to share. There are still so many questions to answer, but the capabilities are there. One thing that I also want to point out is that I am doing this in the very, very limited free time that I have. So you can imagine what a full-time AI engineer has been able to come up with that they haven't marketed yet. 2025 is going to be a crazy year, and I am so excited for it. Let me know if you guys like this type of content. Let me know if you want me to cover more videos like this or create any more AI related topics. Please feel free to let me know and I'll be more than happy to do that. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. Let me know if you're building stuff like this as well, because I would love to talk to you about that. And yeah, have a great day. Hopefully you like this.